So, sick of hearing all the lies coming from your TV about political ads? There's actually 4 types of lies in political ads, known as deflecting, omission, delusion, and an out-and-out lie. Let's take, for instance, the race for governor of Illinois, between this guy and this guy, and go through the 4 types of lies in their political ads. We'll take, for instance, an ad this guy released. Clearly, this ad is trying to make this guy look bad, but in reality, it's a lie known as deflecting. What is deflecting? Deflecting is getting attention away from the untruth. This ad is a great example of that by saying, look, this guy hangs around with all these bad people. And then this guy steps in and says, look at all the good things I'm going to do. But it seems all too good to be true, doesn't it? Anywho, moving on. Now let's take a look at an ad from this guy and see what type of lie he tells.
We are the first state in the country to do this.
This is now the law.
Yes. We had here in Maywood a dog fighting ring. Sheriff Tom Dart of Cook County alerted us to the need to combat and stop dog fighting.
The governor has a long history of supporting our bills.
90,000 animals a year die from tasting antifreeze. It's very sweet and it smells good, except it's very poisonous. So we're going to make sure that there's a bittering agent put into the antifreeze of Illinois. This is Bailey, and he's a very strong supporter of these 2 bills. He was born actually on November 2nd, 1996. On election day, he'll be 14. He was well worth the money with all the protection he's provided. Hey, Bailey. They have a better record than anybody who's running for governor on this issue, and there are those who are misguided, and they advocate policies that are inhumane to animals, and voters are entitled to know that.
It's absolutely incomprehensible.
Shame on Bill Brady. I'm a Republican, but I don't support him for the mass euthanization of animals.
I'm a pretty staunch Republican. I will not be voting for Bill Brady as a result of his bill. That's sick and wrong. I cannot go with my party on that issue.
This ad is the same type of lie known as deflecting. This guy is deflecting all the bad things about himself by saying, look at all the good things I do for pets. He even shows us that this guy wants to pass a bill to put cats and dogs in gas chambers, which is bad. This guy even finds 2 people that were with this guy and now are against him because he wants to put cats and dogs in gas chambers. What's really going on here is this guy is deflecting all the bad things about himself, which is really the untold truth. So now that we've seen the same types of lies from these 2 guys, let's look at another type of lie from this guy.
1745. That's the number of hardened criminals secretly released early from prison onto our streets by Pat Quinn. Domestic abusers, sex offenders, gang members. Since being released by Quinn, many have been charged with new crimes: domestic battery, assault on a young woman, mob action, murder. Times are tough, but Pat Quinn's jeopardized our safety and made life tougher. We have had enough.
So now that we feel that this guy is evil because he released 1,745 criminals from prison, actually he released 1,745 hardened criminals from prison who were domestic abusers, sex offenders, and gang members that later went on to commit more crimes such as domestic battery, assault, mob action, and murder. Let's consider the type of lie called omission first. Omission is telling the truth but leaving out the key parts. This guy is telling the truth that this guy released 1,745 criminals, but we should ask ourselves a question of how many of these 1,745 hardened criminals were domestic abusers, sex offenders, and gang members who went on to commit more acts of crime such as domestic battery, assault, mob action, and murder. If we have this information, then we can then consider this guy being evil. Until then, this guy basically lied, saying this guy is evil. This next ad that this guy released may seem like the same type of lie called omission, but really it's not.
Remember Senator Bill Brady, the millionaire politician who somehow didn't pay any federal income taxes? Now Bill Brady says he has a plan. There's just a slight problem. Economists say Bill Brady's plan would throw 128,000 Illinois people out of work. And his plan would add $1 billion to the deficit by giving tax breaks to the wealthy. Who is this guy? Bill Brady. Wrong and reckless.
In this ad, this guy is trying to make this guy's plan look bad by saying 128,000 people would lose jobs, it'd add $1 billion to the deficit, and it would give tax breaks to the wealthy. All three of these things are excuses for what his plan might do. This guy is believing these excuses as facts, which is wrong. This is known as a type of lie called delusion, which is believing these excuses as true facts. In this next ad involving this guy is the best way to lie.
So you can cut 10% from the budget without cutting personnel?
I believe you can do that, yes.
Well, don't you have to cut 10% of personnel to cut 10%
no, you don't,
across
you don't
the board?
Have to cut
That's
10%
your plan.
personnel.
Cutting 10% across the board, that's your plan.
No. My plan is to reduce government spending by 10% like the private sector.
Yeah, across the board, you said.
No, I've never said across the board. I've never said across the board. What I've said is there... You find it on tape.
Which is why I've called for 10% across-the-board cuts in state spending.
Well, I call for 10% across-the-board cuts. I don't want to bankrupt any state program, but everyone's going to have to share in the sacrifice.
But you're proposing a 10% across-the-board cut, as I understand. Is that correct?
It is.
Is that a little, some people would say, that's a little ham-handed. Is there real leadership involved in just saying, whack, whack, whack?
The 10% across-the-board cut is intellectually lazy.
It's real easy to tell that this guy lied about never saying the 10% across-the-board budget cuts. This kind of lie is called an out-and-out lie. An out-and-out lie is a bald-faced lie because it can be easily confronted with the truth, such as the videos of him saying he wanted across-the-board 10% budget cuts. Overall, any political ads you watch on TV, whether it be from this guy, or any other politician out there, you're being lied to in one of the 4 types of lies known as deflecting, omission, delusion, or just a plain out-and-out lie. Thanks for watching. This video was made by James Castrantis and Casey Barnes for English 105. Oh, and not to forget, here's our works cited.